Welcome back to Green is Good, and this is a real exciting segment for me personally. We've got my great friend Brian Scudamore on. He's the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and he's a superstar entrepreneur who's even doing many other ventures besides that. Welcome back to Green is Good, Brian Scudamore.
Awesome, John. Thanks for having me back on the show. Always a good time.
Hey, Brian, for our listeners out there that haven't heard you personally tell your story, before we get into any of the questions and the fun about your great brand, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and the other brands you've launched recently, can you share a little bit about your journey leading up to it and how you even founded the great brand, 1-800-GOT-JUNK?
Of course. So it all started one day in a McDonald's drive-thru in 1989. It was a tight job market for students. I had planned on going to university or college here in Vancouver, and couldn't fund my own way without getting a great job. So I was looking around, thinking of job ideas, and finally I thought, you know what, it's a tough market. My applications weren't getting looked at. So I was in this McDonald's drive-thru, and the idea hit me. I saw this beat-up old pickup truck in front of me in the lineup, and it said Mark's Hauling on the side, and the guy's truck was filled with junk. And I thought, you know what, maybe I'll go buy a truck and start hauling junk and create my own job rather than depend on finding one.
That's great.
And I got out there, started with one truck, and what ironically funded my way through my entire university education inspired me to drop out. I thought, here I am 3 years into a 4-year degree. I'm learning more about business, actually running a business, more than studying it in school. And I thought, okay, I'm going to drop out and pursue this great business full time. And 1-800-GOT-JUNK started adding trucks, 3 trucks that year, 4 or 5. We're at about 1,000 trucks now.
Wow.
In Canada, the United States, and Australia. And we're at record revenues, which is a fantastic place to be right now. So a little bit about the journey, and every day is a new part of the journey, and it's what makes being an entrepreneur so exciting.
And the reception that came up in 2008, 2009, your brand totally made it through that. No potholes or no scars, and it's flying now.
I would say we made it through. I would say there's plenty of scars and wounds and potholes. It was an interesting time. I think it really helped me understand what being an entrepreneur is all about, that you've got to take the good times and the bad times and roll with them both. And we dropped from $119 million in revenue down to $85 million.
Wow.
During that economic downturn. It was a big downturn for us.
Well,
However,
yep.
We survived. We made it through. We learned a lot about leadership and weathered the storm. And the exciting part is post-recession, we're actually back to now pre-recession levels and beyond. We'll do $126 million this year,
wow.
Perhaps even more.
Wow.
So that's an improvement over our record year. And every month this year has actually turned out to be a record month in revenue. And it feels good to be back on top and winning again.
That's so great. And, that's what makes great entrepreneurs like you, Brian. The fact that you just keep getting back up off the canvas when things hit you down again, and you just never give up. And I know you personally, and I just love that about you, and I love that about your brand. But talk about that. You get record revenues because you have customers coming back and back and back again. Here in New York City, where we tape the show and where I live now, your trucks are all over the city. Can you talk a little bit about the customer stickiness to your brand?
Sure, and maybe I'll even comment for a second. You had mentioned the never, me personally, and the never give up. It's funny that we're talking right now, but in front of me here is a helmet you gave me from Rudy Rudiger that is signed, and it's a big gold shiny helmet that's signed that actually says, "Don't give up."
That's right.
You can't ever give up, and I think that one of the things that makes the experience great for our customers is we never give up on them. If we've ever got an experience that goes awry, if something happens and one of our guys makes a mistake, we will do whatever it takes to fix that experience, to learn from it. And I've learned that if you actually upset a customer and do something wrong, if you handle it properly, if you handle it with an exceptional sort of attitude and experience, you can have that customer be so wowed with you, more so than they were before even having a bad experience. So customer loyalty is something important to us, and we work really hard. We ask every single customer at the end of the job, we will call or email them, depending on how they originally booked their order with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and we will ask, On a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to friends or colleagues?
Right.
And our scores are off the charts because of how carefully our care and attention is to the customer experience to make it better and better every step of the way.
You know, Brian, you started this journey in approximately 1989, so you've seen tremendous, times have changed so much. What has changed in the junk removal industry since '89?
I don't know if much has changed, other than I think what we started to do was professionalize an industry.
Yeah.
Clean, shiny trucks, friendly, uniformed drivers, on-time service, upfront pricing. And I think the only thing that's changed is people have followed our leadership, which is flattering. And there's lots of competitors out there that certainly try and keep us on our toes. But nobody's really grown to the size we're at. We've got about 1,000 trucks. Our next biggest competitor might have 100. And so we feel that as long as we continue to focus on customer service, continue to wow every single person we can, which you have to do in these days of social media, bad news spreads real quick, we think we'll always be on top. And that's an exciting position to be in, but it's never one we take for granted.
Yeah, for our listeners who just tuned in, we've got Brian Scudamore on with us. He's the founder of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and yes, it's www.1-800-GOT-JUNK to learn more about 1-800-GOT-JUNK, to book one of their great trucks, to understand what they do in their service. That's the way to go. Either call them or you could do it online. And Brian, the show is called Green is Good. We've had you on before. You have a tremendous legacy and great environmental footprint because that's actually the DNA of your company. Can you explain that to our listeners, why using 1-800-GOT-JUNK is the environmentally friendly thing to do?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and you and I have had this conversation several times offline, is that we were recycling before people were even really talking about recycling. Everything we haul away, which is literally billions of pounds of junk, rubbish, trash, whatever you want to call it, when we're taking these things off to transfer stations, we've always chosen transfer stations who are more environmentally friendly than, say, their competitors. What they do is they sort through the refrigerators, the TVs, the old furniture, whatever they can do, and 61.3%, that's our current nationally audited by a independent third party number, 61.3% of what we haul away gets recycled, reused, donated. And so recycling is something that we really practice, and we don't do it just because we're trying to greenwash and sound like we're doing all the right things from an environmentally green perspective. We don't really talk about it all that much. Why we do it is because it's the right thing to do, and if we can keep as much of the waste out of the waste stream and have things get reused, recycled, donated, that's where the future's at. There's just too much stuff getting produced and thrown away. I mean, look at any one of us. We're very consumer driven. I'm talking on my iPhone right now. How many iPhones have I had? It's kind of sad that we consume. So we've got to figure out as human beings how to continue to have things reused and recycled. And I think our business does that at the core. And we did it again before people were even talking about recycling. So it is really core of our business. Where do
you you've been doing this and you do it so well, and you're constantly pushing your organization, both the entrepreneurs that become franchisees, but then also the core people back at headquarters. You're constantly working with them to make a better experience and a better brand. Where do you want to take it the next 5 years?
So what we're doing over the next 5 years that is really helping us be a better business and being better leaders is we're also developing other concepts that can help people in their home. So 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which started 24 years ago, and my first baby, I guess, of sorts, inspired me to start another business called Wow One Day Painting. I know you had the founder of the concept, Jim Bodden, on the show, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, we go in and we paint homes in a day without any compromising of quality. We have a third concept called You Move Me, and You Move Me is a locally run moving company. So we don't do long-distance moves. We only specialize in local moves in each metro. And the future, the 5-year vision, the 10-year vision is how can we come in and be the home service professional that you trust for as many different things in your home as possible. We're known for customer experience and caring about the customer and doing everything it takes to wow. So how can we do it with our 3 brands and beyond?
That is so interesting. So it's a one-stop shop for for people with their home services.
Yeah, they're all different businesses with different challenges and problems. I mean, let's face it, painting, moving, they're not simple businesses, but we're constantly trying to raise the bar and improve the experience in that industry. If I look at what binds all our companies together, we've got 3 brands, one day 4 and 5, is making the ordinary business of X exceptional. So making the ordinary business of junk removal exceptional, painting exceptional, and moving exceptional. If we can't take an industry and make it exceptional, we won't touch it. We'll leave it to someone else to either try and figure out or mess it up. But that's really what ties everything together.
With You Move Me, was there an entrepreneur that came to you, or was that something that you incubated in-house?
So that was something we incubated in-house. It came to me in a couple of different ways. Yeah. Number one is, as a consumer, I had moved, and my experience was so horrible that I said, somebody's got to do something about this. Someone's got to change this very broken industry. And when I say broken, much of our stuff was literally broken. So it was a terrible experience.
Right.
With no level of professionalism.
Laughing because I've been through that myself. So you thought of that yourself then?
Thought of it myself, and then found out that there was someone in our business in Kansas City who was running a moving company. So his name's Tyler, and he runs a 1-800-GOT-JUNK franchise and a Wow One Day franchise. He had gotten into the moving business on his own. And I said, listen, would you like to be our first test franchise partner and join this bigger brand? And in return, we'll give you a franchise, but you help us build out some of the systems, share the learning, and it's been fantastic.
No kidding. And Jim came to you. Jim and you met at some, and you had sort of an epiphany together on scaling Wow One Day. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I got my home painted. I had 3 different people quote me on painting my house, and they told me 7 to 10 days. This is what it'll cost. Jim came in and said, same price, same quality. I've done this for 22 years. I hire great people. But the kicker, what got me excited, was he said, listen, and I'll do it in a day. Wow. And my immediate reaction was, is that even possible? And I think everybody questions that when they look at our business. However, it's pretty easy to see that one room can be painted by 2 people in a day. Why can't you just take the same number of, take your rooms, multiply by 1 or 2 people? I had 16 people in my house, and they banged off my job in a day without rushing, without any compromising quality, and it was fantastic. So when I had my house painted by Jim's crew, I said, okay, have you looked at franchising this? And he said, I actually tried and failed. I said, okay, well, maybe I can help you. And we got together over a beer, and the rest is history.
So now, taking the 24 years of amazing business experience that you had at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and then using that as a platform for the painting, Wow One Day Painting, and You Move Me, how is that going to enable you to scale those brands much faster than, obviously, you had to scale 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You were on territory and, putting footsteps where no one's ever been before. Now, how are you going to use all your great experience as an entrepreneur, and a massively successful one at that, to help scale these much faster and get these to a critical mass and to the places you want them to go in a truncated way?
Yeah, 2 key points on that. Number one is I have to, and people in our company, we've got to make sure that I keep and we keep our egos in check. Yeah. Not to think that just because we built one business successfully, or 2 or 3, that we can continue to do it. Yeah. Each business has different set of problems, different set of challenges, and we've got to still bootstrap these businesses like we did with 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We've still got to hire great people. We've still got to focus on the consumer. So it's keeping our ego in check and saying, hey, we haven't figured everything out. There's so much learning each and every day. The second key point is we really have to take our systems and processes that we have in place and leverage those. Our call center, how we get PR, how we market online, all the things that we do a good, solid job at, leveraging that. And I think proof that we're leveraging it is, if you look at You Move Me, we launched 26 markets almost overnight, and we did $1 million in revenue, actual $1 million in moves in our first 2 months. Wow. We'll do $1 million in our 3rd month. It's growing quickly, and that's only because we've had infrastructure in place in which to really lever things up.
That is that's great. Let's go back to 1-800-GOT-JUNK. You 1-800-GOT-JUNK landed on a television show. Can you talk about the power of TV and interrelate that to what you also have done with social media? Because you're just a master at messaging and branding. And can you share with our listeners? We have so many listeners out there of the generation behind us, Brian, that are looking to start something new, and it doesn't cost. The assets that it takes to start something new now aren't as daunting as they used to be because of the democratization of the internet and the processes that allows us. Can you take what you've done on TV and interrelate it with online also, and talk about how that you keep your brands in front of the public at large that way?
Sure. So we landed one of the biggest media hits I think someone can land, which was the Oprah Winfrey Show years ago, 2003, and
Right.
and that was just unbelievable. But we had already had some great big wins: Wall Street Journal, Fortune Magazine, all sorts of great press that we aggressively went after and said, "Listen, we have a great story to tell. We'd love to be able to have you hear our story." And I would often call up producers, and I still do this today. I met with someone at the Wall Street Journal recently, which turned into me doing a webcast later on today with the Wall Street Journal. And press is just the perfect way to get the message out. You mentioned social media.
Yeah.
That's one that I don't know if we've really figured out. Actually, I know we haven't. And I think I'm starting to learn that social media really is just the medium. It's still about the message. Nobody can just put their business on Facebook or LinkedIn and expect that everything goes hog wild. What makes a business go hog wild and spread virally is having a great story. Right. And so what stories can we mine from our business, from our people? It's the stories that get spread. In 1-800-GOT-JUNK, the coolest find I think we ever found was $400,000 in cash under someone's hardwood floors. There was a little tiny floorboard sticking up, and there was what looked like a bill, and one of our guys pointed it out to the homeowner, and they said, "Let's rip this board up." And then, sure enough, at the end of the day, when this person ripped up their floorboards, there was $400,000 in bills that had been buried apparently in the 1930s. So
wow.
It's those stories, it's cool things that happen that really get spread. It's not the actual medium. And I think in today's storytelling era, we've got too many people that are out there trying to show up and throw up. Just yak, 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 yak. This is who I am. This is my business. This is why I'm so great. No, think of how you can tell a story that can help someone.
That's right.
That's the key, is storytelling. We're in the storytelling era, and I think that that's the future.
For our young listeners out there that want to grow up and become the next Brian Scudamore, my son being one that you inspired when he was only a mere 11 years old, and he's now 20. What advice or resources do you want to share with them? We've got a couple minutes left here. Looking backwards, how do you inspire our next generation to be like you? I mean, look at you with 3 amazing businesses up and running, and more to come. You've got so much more in front of you, Brian. What can you share backwards for the young listeners who are struggling to find what's their place on this planet in terms of business and opportunities?
It's a great question, and I think that the most important thing someone can do is just really tap into their soul and try and figure out what is the reason I am here. What is it that I was intended to do? So in my situation, my why, if we'll call it that, is to see possibilities, to imagine big things. And I believe when you imagine big things, you never know, they just might happen.
Right.
I had envisioned, and we put it up on our big Can You Imagine wall in our office years ago, imagine being on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Imagine being a brand that's $1 billion in revenue. What could we imagine? And starting to ask the questions and having that really spread. So I think future entrepreneurs or future adults, people that are growing up that want to do something great for the world, which, hey, that's why we're all here. I think it's checking in with yourself and saying, what can I imagine for myself? What can I imagine for the world? And I know that your son, Tyler, is, what I did to inspire him, I have no idea. He's an inspiring kid who's doing inspiring things. And I remember the day he picked me up at the airport in Fresno, California, 11 years old. He's got a sign out. He's wearing a 1-800-GOT-JUNK uniform, and he holds up the sign, Brian Scudamore. I mean, I felt like a rock star. And, it was a pretty special experience. So I think inspiring people do inspiring things. And it's just tapping into what's important in this world and how, as one individual, can you help make the place a better
Well,
place.
you've inspired me and our listeners again, Brian, and you are an inspiring entrepreneur and a sustainability superstar and truly living proof that green is good.